running a little late, obviously, since it's well past the top of the hour. And actually, my guest is running late, so I'm not sure how long it's going to be before she makes it. But I'm here, and that's good, right? Because you generally come to see me, and I'm glad to see you. Happy Tuesday, and we're going to be talking with Shukri Abdirahman if if she makes it here. But and when she gets here, we'll do our thing. But until then, we'll just figure it out because I certainly have things to talk about because I always have things to talk about. And one of the things we were going to talk about was education here in Minnesota. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yes, lateness will get me docked $1,000 per the contract. Yes, I am contracted to be on time every day, all times ever. that always works out. So anyway, hopefully we'll see Shu in a bit, and we'll make do until she makes it. So good morning, Johnny. How about you play the intro?
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, the one and only P-Dog Knight.
All right, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P-Dog Knight on the internet, and welcome back to the P-Dog Knight channel on this Tuesday, the 24th of January, 2023. And I'm so happy to see you all here. Hopefully my guest will make it pretty soon. I just texted her. I'm hoping everything's okay. Anyway, but if she doesn't make it, I'll still make do, like I always do. And like I said, I hope you're having a good morning. Let's say good morning to people who are here, though. And we'll start with the Rumble side of the ledger, which would be oh shoot, I forgot about this. There's gonna be some glitches in the sound on my end too. I don't know what it is. I think it's every time I touch something because I have so many things open right now so that I can see the Streamlabs and I can see the two different monitors from two different video venues plus my studio monitor. I gotta upgrade this computer pretty soon, but we'll work on it. Anyway, first on the chat over in Rumble, that would be Avocados Diabli. Who gets the bell? And that was pretty weak. What the hell is that? Why is that so soft? Hang on. How'd that happen? There, that's better. There we go. There we go. Now that's a proper bell ringing and audience participation. Over on the YouTubes, the tubes over there, it was also Avocados Diabli who gets the bell. Also, good morning, Septus Wolf. The TOS, which is it's the something shroom. I always forget what that well, I'll just say shroom anyway. Also, good morning, Maddie's in the house. My favorite Canadian Jaeger ponies here. Simon Wolfwood. Who else is here? Rotten Corpse, Tribute Liberty, Higgs in the house. Hig was here early too. Were you here first over there? Wait a minute, did I mess up? Was Hig first on YouTube? No, it was Avocados Diabli. You were here early. Okay. I want to make sure I didn't get that wrong. Also, good morning to Tex AG 007 and Septus Wolf, Lord Stanhope, Somnambule Nation, Tyrannus. Wait a minute. We can do this today. Tyrannus Alexandrius Tremelich is in the house. Good morning, sir. Also, good morning to I always crack up when I do that. Good morning, Rick Ashberger. Yes, the notification probably didn't go out when it should have. Unless, well, you should have got the 30-minute warning notification, but maybe you didn't. I don't know. Also, hello, Lord. I already said Lord Stanhope. Paul's in the house. Zan's in the house. The Asia Research Director is in the house. Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
TC is here. Good morning also to Mike Savage, Blarg. Nomads in the house. Hammer time. Also, good morning to who am I missing? I saw now. Oh, Episquipo's here. 5Z. Should I just say 5Z? I don't know. And I saw now what and my friend greetings from Seattle. Yep, there she is. The parent units send their love. Good. I hope Dick and I are doing well. And I think that's everybody on the YouTube side. So anyway, welcome to the show. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure what's going on with my guest. We talked last night and we just made sure everything worked and everything. And so I hope everything's okay with her. I know she was trying to get her kids off to school, but one of her kids was sick, so I'm not sure. So if we may have to reschedule, or if she makes it, she'll make it, and we'll make sure we have a good talk. But I still want to talk about some of the things we were going to talk about with her, and I'm going to go. Maybe we'll just do some background because if she makes it here, then we'll just get rid of the preliminary stuff. So I wanted to show you who Shu is. Shu is now. This is from. Let's see. This is from when she was going to run for Congress. So I'm going to play her ad. Now she ended up dropping out of the primary at the time, and there were some reasons. Not a big deal, but so she did not end up running against Ilhan Omar, but that was her plan, and ended up dropping out. But the ad that she put out, I thought was pretty cool. So we're going to watch that first. So wait, I got to share my screen here. I'm going to learn how to do this. This is the other, I forgot I'm not on OBS. I'm on a different planet here. So let me get this, make that full screen, and let's share this bad boy. Okay. Here was Shu's ad, when she was getting ready to run for Congress, because she was, and I think it's a pretty cool ad. So let's watch this.
My father was taken in the middle of the night, but Burr's men had poisoned him for refusing to join this war. Surviving abuse at a young age, losing my father, all remain with me. In fear of our lives, my family fled war-torn Somalia to the slums of Kenya, where we spent nearly 4 years in refugee in America. Somalia to Minnesota, my family and I were welcomed as legal American citizens. America had saved my life, the land of opportunity. Inspired by the events of Black Hawk Down, I joined the military to give back to
the audio is choppy. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close a bunch of windows here. We'll just get rid of this, and that should close that. And let me get rid of some stuff because I don't want it to be choppy. We'll hang on a second here. Let's fix that. Give me a second here. Is all the audio choppy, or is it just the video? I'm just curious because I know that sometimes when I have too much stuff open, that causes issues. So let me try something real quick here. I am going to start where we left off though, but let me try something real quick. Stream apps dashboard and beginning audio is smooth out of low memory. Yeah, it's because I need to upgrade my computer. That's definitely something that needs to happen. And although right now I'll tell you that the other story that's happening to me later. All right, let's go back. Let's see if we can finish this. Now, one thing, so what's interesting is she was running in the Republican primary for the Minnesota 5. It's the district that Ilhan Omar is currently the representative from Minnesota. So let's we'll watch the rest. Oh no, I didn't want to remove this. I want to add stream. There we go. All right, here we go.
Men and women who gave their lives so that I could have a second chance. I served over 10 years as a United States soldier. I was deployed to Iraq, where I fell in love with a fellow soldier and gave birth to 3 beautiful children. But they lost their father to PTSD and the pains of war. My husband was a different person that we no longer recognize. It wasn't easy surviving domestic abuse and taking on my newfound role as a single mother, struggling to care for them, at one point homeless, living in our car, poor and tired. But my hand is not out. I still believe in the American dream, resistant to become helplessly dependent on a system. I have seen vulnerable communities and so many of my brothers and sisters become enslaved to, rather than empowered to truly prosper in the land of the free. Our lives, our pride, and dignity can no longer be bought in exchange for votes that only keep the elite in power, who disappear and abandon us after election season is over. The self-aggrandized political class who do not represent the people. My name is Shukri Abdirahman, and I'm running for Congress in Minnesota. I am a survivor, a refugee, a mother, a Black Muslim, but above all, I am a Minnesotan and an American, just like you.
Pretty powerful ad. When I just saw that actually for the first time today because I hadn't seen her ads. Um, and the problem is in her district. So, for example, I can't even remember who ended up running in that district against Ilhan Omar, but it was literally like I think it's a 99%, like a ridiculously high percentage Democrat district. Okay. Um, and I think Ilhan Omar won with 85% of the vote in her district. But some things that I was learning as I've talked to Shu over the last couple of days in preparation for this was that Ilhan Omar is not necessarily that popular in the Somali community in that district, and the larger part of the Somali community that were refugees that have moved here and have become American citizens live in that district. They don't like Ilhan Omar. In fact, there was a Somali celebration. I believe they had it at the Target Center. It was a pretty big event. And when Ilhan Omar went on stage, she was booed like almost mercilessly. And no one wanted to hear her, no one wanted to see her. They don't like her because it's interesting is that her values don't necessarily are not necessarily in congruence with her own community. And so you'd think that perhaps at least within that community there's an opportunity for someone else to represent the district, but the district's not just a Somali community. It's it covers most of Minneapolis. I have to remember what the map looks like for the 5th district, but it is very much a Minneapolis district, which is very much a very Democrat, liberal, left-wing city. And so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is I wanted to ask about that. How do you come from as a refugee from Somalia and end up being a conservative Republican? And Shu is absolutely a conservative Republican. And a Trump supporter, what? Okay, Ty is explaining it. Well, when you're a disingenuous to the aunt who wants to turn America into what they are trying to escape, that's maybe why the Somali community in particular isn't all that fond of Ilhan Omar. That very well could be true. So goodness, that I saw that and I was like, oh, that's harsh. So anyway, so I'm not sure. So anyway, long story short, I'm not sure what time she's going to make it here, but I still want to. I'm still going to talk about her because she did an interview in a publication called The Remnant, which is a national Catholic newspaper established in 1967. It's a newspaper that is Minnesota based, but for whatever reason, the correspondent that did the interview with Shu is from Japan, And so we can go through some of this and also talk to you about some of the things that we're dealing with in Minnesota as far as the legislature. So until then, which I'll do in a moment. Good morning to HP Lovecraft. I see you in the chat. Just made it to the chat. And Jess Phillips, how you doing, Jess? My wonderful son-in-law, and pissed off Shih Tzus in the house. And I think I've caught up with Tyler F. Good morning. And by the way, quick thank yous to the people who have tweeted out the show: Somnambule Nation, Maddie, Tyler, who's this here? Mitch the Ripper, and Simon Wolfwood, and let's see, Mike Savage, Jack Cochran, Uncle Hotep. Thank you all for tweeting out the show after the last couple days as I've been promoting this. I hope everything's okay with her. We'll find out. Maybe she'll pop in here soon. All right. Anyway, so a little background, as you saw from the video. I'll just pull up this article because this is actually pretty good. Hang on a second here. So, and her campaign was just like you, and she, like I said, she spent 10 years in the Army. She's a single mother. Her children's father, military veteran, was lost, due to PTSD. She survived a car accident in 1994 when she now this is interesting, because she talks about being a legal alien. She was a refugee and got legal status in the United States, served in the United States military. And apparently the accident she had was when was an accident with 6 illegal aliens in the car who ran a red light. And she was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And then in December she survived another car accident. So and then also one of her children required more than a dozen stitches in that accident. But here, let's put this article up. No, don't remove. Add a stream. There we go. And then our 2022 campaign, who goes by Shukri, who goes by Shu, declares that she's just like you. Although, and then the article goes on, I'm betting that there are ways in which Shu isn't just like you at all. She's not like me, at least in that I never served in the military, never ran for office, never held a family together on my own, never faced a loved one's PTSD, never bounced back from 2 car accidents. In all these ways, Shu is not like me at all. She lives with strength, which I only hope to aspire. Yeah, what do cars have against her? I don't know. Good morning, Jimmy Das Hotep over on Rumble, too. Good morning, sir. So, but yeah, so she was born in Somalia. Her father, a former minister of agriculture in that country, was murdered by the Mohammed Saeed Barry regime after escaping from her homeland with her life. Abdirahman, I'll just say Shu, so I don't butcher her last name. And her surviving family spent years in a refugee camp in Kenya before being granted asylum in the United States. And so she is now an American by choice. She understands so many Americans, what so many Americans take for granted, are not guaranteed at all. She's a patriot, had to fight to become an American. Nothing in life was given to her. And for that reason, she was not about to let anything she loves be taken away. Now I'm going to skip down because, oh, wait, let's see. Oh, one of her. Okay, so this reporter first learned of Shu in 22. One of her tweets about the so-called. Oh, okay. Now, it's a topic that I can't discuss. She's, let's just say there is skepticism towards the election in 2020. That, and I'm going to leave it at that. But she got in trouble a little bit on Twitter because of a tweet she did. But anyway, she talks about things like a coup in which the FBI and CIA ran against a certain candidate, or attempted coup in 2016. Now you kind of can talk about that election, but anyway, but let's see. So her biography: when she was 8 years old, She said, my dad gave me a green backpack he had used during his PhD studies at the University of Colorado. It had a map of the United States in the back, along with the words embroidered in white, the will of the people. When my dad gave me that backpack, I'd never been to America. I didn't speak a word of English. I was mesmerized as my dad explained what those 5 words meant. Now I wonder if the will of the people even exists anymore. That backpack is one of very few things that she now has that connect her to her father. She said, my dad resigned as Minister of Agriculture in Somalia when I was born. He left the dictatorship government to get away to America. He took 5 of my siblings and my mom with him to Fort Collins, Colorado, but the Somali government refused to issue Shu and her little brother passports. This was to spite her father for having resigned from the regime. So she and her little brother were both left behind in Somalia. Her maternal grandmother moved from Ethiopia to keep them from being placed in one of the dictator's orphanages. Eventually, her mom and 3 siblings were made to come back to Somalia, having been denied asylum by the United States government. The reason they were denied asylum was that Somalia was not at war at the time, even though silent atrocities were being committed by the Barry regime. Soon after that, her dad's asylum application was also denied, and he returned to Somalia in September of 1988. Her dad gifted her the backpack and a copy of his PhD dissertation upon his return, but he left the 2 oldest brothers behind in the United States with some American colleagues in the agricultural field. Her brothers were boys of 17 and 18 at the time, so his dad feared for their lives. And I'm not sure what. Okay, wait. Oh, if he would have brought them back to Somalia. And then she was one of the top students in the country in science back then. She was going to go to Ethiopia to take part in a science competition for school. Then on a night in October 88, while they were sleeping, their house was raided by Red Hat forces. These were the dictator president's elite forces, like Delta or Special Forces in the United States. And then she recalled her mother's screams, waking the kids up. Those screams were the beginning of a waking nightmare for she and her family. I can't fully explain it. She said, it's something I memory hold, but I will never forget. I will never forget the monstrosity of the terror. That night was the longest, most never-ending time in her existence. So clearly, she had gone through some very, very trying times. As far as with the government of Somalia. No one came out in their neighborhood or even dared to see what the screams were about. The will of the people had been stolen from them. In the isolation of a neighborhood paralyzed by fear, the Abdirahmans experienced a living hell. She said, I can see so vividly the brutal Red Hat thugs as they came for my father. I felt my heart being ripped out of my chest. The Red Hats looked in every corner of our house while I hid under a sofa in the tea time room. And then they dragged my dad out of the house, and there was a voiceless silence, and then heavy boot steps, and then car engines were all she heard. She says, I realized at the very moment that my dad, who I had not seen since I was 26 months old, when he left for America, was being taken away from me. I came out from under the sofa screaming and crying for my dad. I ran as fast as I could to catch up with my dad and the madmen, but it was too late. They were already in their black Range Rovers driving away. She says, I felt numb, and I walked back with heaviness and this wobbly feeling in my knees toward our children's study room where we did our homework. Once I was there, I grabbed my backpack my dad had given me, and I lay down on the floor and snuggled with the backpack with my hands going over it to feel the embroidered words, the will of the people. I kept trying to recall what they meant, exactly how my dad explained it to me, and the sound of his voice as he did so. So I'm gonna I'd love you to read the rest of this. This is it's very compelling. But I'm gonna move on to when she moved to Minnesota. I wonder what happened to her. I hope she's okay. Let's see. Let me check something real quick. I'm gonna give me 1 second here. Just making sure if she'd sent any messages here yet. Which doesn't look like it. Well, I hope so. I hope everything's okay. Let me just send her a message real quick here. Okay. Oh shoot, what's going on here? Give me one moment, please. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right, that's fine. All right, well, we'll just come back to this then, and then I want to talk a couple things that have Minnesota drive me nuts. Let's see here. Wasn't exactly my plan today, but this is how it's going to be. So she said, "I'm heading." Oh, and now this kind of explains what some of the stuff she's seeing in America, in the United States, that's happening around her. And someone made the comment, not wanting things to turn as they did where she came from. Over the course of probably an hour and a half. Okay, let's see. So then she explains what it means to be American, having forgotten the will of the people and erased God. But I cannot help but think the picture that she paints of present day America sounds in many ways even more brutal than the Somalia from which she escaped as a little girl. And she says, "I'm heading the fight against the sexualization of children," she says, her voice thickening with emotion. "Here in Minnesota, the schools have pushed God so far out, parents have no rights anymore, not even to know whether their children are transitioning from gender to gender. Mohammed Siad Barry's henchmen raped women and girls. Joe Biden's henchmen are performing and encouraging sex change operations on elementary schoolers." Now, the reason and this kind of leads to where we were going to talk about what's happening in the schools here, because beginning in 2024, Minnesota will require teachers to support transgender ideology in order to get a teaching license in the state. And that brings me to this article. This made a couple different news outlets, but this is the Christian Post. The parental rights group and the Christian scholars are criticizing the requirements for a teaching license in Minnesota. Now, watch for this in a lot of states too, because so this is how they kind of force it within the schools, is that a legislature will say that will put down education standards where you have to believe certain things and able to be able to teach. You have to you have to fit within that ideology. The new requirements include a mandate that teachers must address trans-identified students by their stated gender identity and embrace controversial ideologies on race. Let's see, did I make sure that wasn't the message? Okay, it wasn't. A new set of let's see. This might even have. Oh, they do have the bill. We'll even pull that up. A new set of permanent rules relating to licensing and academic standards for teachers in the state are slated to go into effect July 1st, 2024, nearly 3 years after they were first proposed in December 2021. And I think this legislature that's here now, since the Democrats now have all the legislature, in Minnesota, we have a bicameral legislature and a governor, so very much like the United States, where we have a House and a Senate and a governors. Well, all three are Democrats right now. So now they are just gung-ho. They're pushing through new laws like on abortion and in schools and all kinds of things, on transitioning of kids, whether or not kids have to notify their parents if they have certain types of medical procedures, or certain types of medical affirming care, which I refer to as gender affirming harm, without parents' permission, without parents even having to be notified, kind of like they do in the state of Washington right now. So the new requirements completely overhauled the, quote, standards of effective practice, end quote, for teachers, and contain multiple passages indicating teachers are expected to affirm students' backgrounds and identities without any notification of parents. A standard on student learning has been amended to read, quote, The teacher understands that students bring assets for learning based on their individual experiences, abilities, talents, prior learning, and peer and social group interactions, as well as language, culture, family, and community values, and approaches their work and students with this asset based mindset, affirming the validity of students' backgrounds and identities. That's an interesting loaded sentence there, isn't it? The document maintains that teachers must create, quote, opportunities for students to learn about power, privilege, intersectionality, and systemic oppression in context of various communities, end quote, and teaching their students to act as, quote, agents of social change and promote equity. So in other words, they're asking them to be pats Marty's head awkwardly while he talks. What? What's that mean? What they're saying is you must have the proper amount of wokeness and you must be teach students to be activists. Basically. I mean, whatever. Teachers are expected to understand the diverse impacts of individual and systemic trauma, including racism and micro and macroaggression. So there will be no sticks and stones break your bones and words that never hurt you. In other words, every little tiny word and slight, whether imagined or real or whatever, must be confirmed by the teachers. I hate the idea of microaggressions. That's just the most so the including how, let's see, the teacher to understand the diverse impacts of individual and systemic trauma. That's the other thing. Systemic trauma, like there must have some trauma. Like that's weird. Including racism and micro and macro aggressions on learning and development. And embrace, quote, culturally responsible strategies and resources to address these impacts. So, in other words, they are teaching thin-skinnedness. That's what I would call it. Additionally, the standards outline requirements how teachers should set up their learning environments. And here we go. A teacher who meets the requirements laid out by Minnesota's Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, quote, fosters an environment that ensures student identities such as race, ethnicity, national origin, language, sex, and gender identity, sexual orientation, physical, developmental, mental ability, social, economic class, and religious beliefs are historically and socially contextualized. Now, when they say religious beliefs are socially and historically contextualized, historically and socially contextualized, affirmed, and incorporated into a learning environment where students are empowered to learn and contribute as their whole selves. Okay, let me just call bullshit. Because the religious beliefs only, not all religious beliefs are allowed. And that goes for all religions, if you know what I mean. Not including the Muslim students, including the Jewish students, including the Christian students. They're not allowed to even think about God because, when contextualized, they don't want it to be part of the agenda because their contextualized religious beliefs only go so far. Because if they don't believe in certain things that the wokety woke teachers are forced to teach, then that stuff is just thrown by the wayside. I'm just saying. And that's why I wanted to show you how much common ground I have with our friend Shu. But I hope she makes it. I hope everything's okay. I don't know what's going on. But you know what? We'll be okay. We'll figure it out. So, the call to affirm students based on their gender identity. Again, gender affirming harm. suggests that teachers will be required to refer to trans-identified students by names and pronouns that correspond with their stated gender identity as opposed to their biological sex. The new standards come as teachers elsewhere in the United States have been suspended and taken their cases to court after refusing on religious grounds to embrace an LGBT ideology that contradicts their sincerely held religious beliefs about sex and gender. Oh, see, now when I read the line up here where it said something, blah, 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 this and that, and yada, yada, and religious beliefs are historically and socially contextualized, affirmed, and incorporated into the learning environment where students are empowered to learn and contribute to as their whole selves, as long as it doesn't butt up against other ideologies. So, that's special. Anyway, let's see. And then they say, while most of the policies many parents and citizens find concerning are implemented at the local level by school boards, the new standards for Minnesota teachers are issued by the state. So, for example, in the school district where my friends' children go to school, because I have you tell me about this, that particular school district is one of these districts where there is a school board policy that students must be affirmed in whatever thing they tell the teacher they are, and the parents shall not be notified. They are, required, I don't know, suggested, I don't know, but they are not to tell the parents. So, if your child is in the school district and they want to play, let's just say the student, and I'm not even talking about students who may have some sort of dysphoria or questioning about what they are and whatnot, but basically, it is a magnet for students just fucking with teachers all the time too. You know that, right? So anyway, let's see. Now, excuse me. In an op-ed published, I'll open that op-ed, published it by an Alpha News, Bethany Lutheran Theological Seminary adjunct professor Alan Quist and Julie Quist. Alan Quist ran for governor. Chair of the Minnesota Parental Rights Advocacy Group, the Child Protection League, warned that the new standards will embed basic Marxist principles such as critical race theory, fluid sexual identity, and gender politics into all Minnesota schools. He's probably right. Oh, you know what I haven't done? I haven't even looked on here, guys. I'm sorry. I have to try and pay attention to give me a second here. I one of my issues here is I'm going through StreamYards, and so I have no idea if anything's hitting Streamlabs. So I might have to have you tell me that. Okay, none so far. Okay, I'm good. All right, back to this. What's this? I try to check the chat here. Let's look at the chat. Eventually, teachers stopped replying to me because it took away from their other people's learning experience. Wouldn't have read in textbook an answer. Okay. Not sure most kids have it in them to fuck with teachers anymore. Pretty sure the impulse to rebel has been coddled out of them. Well, it kind of has, hasn't it? That's a good point, AD. All right, so standard Marxist principles and dogma divides people into opposing groups so that students and teachers must view themselves not as individuals, but as members of groups. Oppressor groups and oppressed groups, sounds familiar, and oppressed groups must be liberated from the exploitation of their oppressors. When formally adopted, the new requirements must be met to become and remain licensed to teach in Minnesota. So, Katrin Wigfall, a policy fellow at the Minnesota-based conservative think tank Center of the American Experiment, notes that formal adoption of the rules is anticipated later in the winter or early this spring after most components of the document were approved by administrative law judges. So there are, and like I said, there's already districts kind of implementing this type of, if not teacher requirement, definitely the curriculum behind this. And I don't know if you have school-age kids, start paying attention to what's happening in your schools. Now, the good thing though, also in Minnesota, and I think I put a copy of the bill here, professional educator here. This is or excuse me, the document that they're talking about. Professional educator licensing boards adopted permanent rules relating to licensing and academic standards, and it goes through the entire page. This is many, many pages long. I'm not going to go through it clearly because I don't want to. But anyway, now there are parents in my state that are fighting back. Is this the editorial by Alan Quist? Yeah, Alan Quist is a very he ran for governor, I think a couple times. He did not win. He's on the right. Let's just put it that way. He's very, very conservative, and especially for Minnesota. Minnesota is a very liberal state. Although, what's interesting, at one time when Minnesota was, remember, Minnesota is the only state that that voted for Reagan. I think Minnesota is the only state, or not for Reagan, voted against Reagan the second time. He won 49 states, and the state he did not win was Minnesota. Now, I think Walter Mondale might have been a factor, since Walter Mondale was I don't remember if he ran against Mondale, but anyway, Mondale's from Minnesota. But also when Nixon won, I think Nixon won like 47 states his second go around, and Minnesota was one of the states Nixon lost too. So it's a very Democrat state, right? And we're not just talking in the cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul or Duluth, which is a joke. Minnesota's say Duluth. But the entire state used to be they called it the Democratic Farmer and Labor Party of Minnesota. They don't call them just Democrats. They're the Democrat Farmer and Labor Party. So pretty much covered all the bases in Minnesota. And for the longest time, when I first moved here especially, this whole state was blue, entirely blue. But in the last, let's say, well, I don't know if it's the last 10 years, but I know for certain it's been slowly changing. More of rural Minnesota is more Republican. And in fact, Trump, the guy with the funny hair, dominated rural Minnesota. Now, he did not win Minnesota because the balance of power in Minnesota is heavily in favor of the two cities in which I congregate, Minneapolis and St. Paul. But it's getting closer and closer and purpler just because the suburbs and the rural areas of Minnesota have become more and more Republican. So there are a couple, excuse me, we've had Republican governors since I've been here. We've had a Republican senator since I've been here. It's not always a given, although lately it has, because now the Democrats have both houses of the Minnesota legislature and the governorship. But anyway, so the editorial that they were talking about here. Hello. Oh, the one who's here. Nice to see you. And I'm still trying to figure out what that means. Okay. State to require teachers to demonstrate Marxist worldview to obtain a license. So he gets a little more. Okay, so below are some of the new licensing standards. And then they have commentary. Help students develop social identities based on their social grouping. So group identities will usurp individuals' identities. Comply with the construct of multiple identity formation. And he says this means they must identify which identity groups a student belongs to, intersectionality, to scale the scale of power assigned to each identity group, and how their identities intersect. And that's, again, I said intersectionality. They will incorporate social and emotional learning into all classes. Okay. Which SEL seeks to transform the values, attitudes, and beliefs of students to achieve full compliance with equity and gender ideology. They must, understand systemic trauma, including racism and micro and macro aggressions. Trauma is presumed to have been inflicted upon victims from oppressor classes. They must be inclusive to reflect the diversity of cultures. Teachers will have to affirm homosexuality, transgenderism, sexual identity, gender is a choice, not biology, and the absence of moral standards for sexual practices, which will set the stage for the normalization of that P word that we don't say on YouTube. Then they also must fully affirm and incorporate identity politics into the school, including race, gender ideology, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, economic status, and ethnicity. They must focus on implicit bias and systemic racism, including white privilege. They must prioritize material from traditionally marginalized voices that offer diverse perspectives on race, culture, language, gender identity, religion, nationality, migrant, refugee status, and other identities traditionally silenced or omitted from the curriculum. Silenced? Silenced? What are they talking about? They must teach materials that empower learners to be agents of social change and promote equity. So, meaning, they must teach the kids to be activists. And there's a really good video, and we'll talk about this tomorrow with Tiffany Justice, because I just watched a interview with her and James Lindsay, who's talking about how the idea that they're teaching kids to be activists into their super social liberal causes through every bit of learning they do. So, for example, they'll have, if it's a math problem, it's going to be a math problem about how, if you're let me think of something I was trying to be funny here, but the math problem would include something about some sort of activism, if if your class has 20 black kids and 3 white kids, what percentage of the class is racist? I mean, that's basically a silly example of what SEL does. They try to bring social and political commentary into every subject. So if you're studying chemistry, I don't know, they'll find some way to put some woke bullshit into it. So anyway, TC, you're over here too. I find it particularly challenging to keep up with UK news, let alone USA news. I hear you. Let's see. They must train students in social activism through service learning. So they must take them out and do some little activism stuff. They must connect students with local and global political activists. Really? Can they be Republican political activists? I bet that's not part of it. They must understand that Minnesota's laws. This is crazy. This is good. They must understand that Minnesota's laws were created to oppress by race, class, gender, sexual orientation, language, and nationality. So this is the Marxist interpretation of history through presumed identity group power. And they must understand white supremacy and how racism operates institutionally. This is the Marxist assumption that our institutions are fundamentally racist. They must understand ethnocentrism and Eurocentrism as determining equity. Okay, so the Eurocentrism and ethnocentrism form the core of America's cultural, religious, and political heritage and are presented as racist and oppressive. Young people will be stripped of their history and instead be told their heritage is oppressive, racist, white, and heteronormative. So they don't seem to have any interest in saying that this is an American culture. I don't know. So every CRT and gender fluid buzzword is embedded into the standards and they are required to be incorporated into the instruction. Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci said that people are trapped in a prison house of language because the language determines how people think. He emphasized that we must change the language of the culture in order to usher in the Marxist revolution. So that's what's happening in our Minnesota schools. Yay! So, by the way, if you're just getting here, unfortunately, something happened with Shu, and she doesn't seem that she's able to make it today. We talked last night. We thought we had the show ready to go, but we'll find out later. Maybe we'll reschedule with Shu. So I'm still going to go through some of this, though. Now, interesting, the parents in Minnesota are kind of fighting back. There is a new, and there's a couple articles here. We'll just do one. Hang on. Oh, wrong one. Hang on. Why is this not working? So this is a group that's starting to come together in Minnesota, kind of related to Moms for Liberty, which is my guest tomorrow is oh shoot. my brain's not working. Hang on. Tiffany Justice from Moms for Liberty. I had to think about that for a second. And so the group Moms for Liberty is a group that started to kind of fight back against some of the stuff that's going on in schools, be it, CRT, be it the transgender agenda. Because it's not, I don't necessarily think it's an LGBTQ agenda. One of the things that I always get or hear from people when you start talking about this too is, well, what are you worried about, the coaches and the different priests and whatever that are engaging in some of these worries that you are, and why are you always just focusing on the LGBTQ? Because they're not trying to teach it in the schools. And by the way, any coaches who molest a kid or any priest molest a kid or pastor or whatever, they can go under the prison too. I have nothing for them. But as you try to normalize certain things in schools, that makes it easier for those assholes too. See, so the idea that you're sexual, for example, the proliferation of the sexualization of curriculums in schools in the United States, with the talking to kids about their sexuality at younger and younger ages, having the drag queen story hours, having just the weird shit that they take them to, the teacher who took a side trip that was supposed to be to a museum and took him to a pole dance, a strip club where they have and teaching them pole dancing. It's like, why are you doing this? And it's not just the LGBTQ that helps out. Because I don't consider it an LGBTQ standard to be bugging kids, right? But there are people who want to promote this and make their lives more acceptable by, maybe teaching kids, indoctrinating them into the idea that some of these things are just all right at the younger and younger ages, and so that they can feel more accepted. Well, I don't care if you're accepted. You can do your adult shit by yourself. I don't want to do it around my kids. So anyway, I think Christians need to stop turning the other cheek. Well, maybe. So anyway, there's a new group in Minnesota called, and they rallied in front of the state capitol in October, carrying signs with crossed out images of pride flags and CRT. A new group in Minnesota, the Minnesota. Now, this is not a friendly written article, by the way. You'll catch it as I read this. Hello, Shrapnel. How you doing? A new group in Minnesota, the Minnesota Parents Alliance, claiming to be nonpartisan, which I'm sure there are more people on the right in this group than on the left, but whatever, has launched an effort to gain, and then they put the scare quotes, parental rights. on school boards partnering with anti-LGBTQ organizations. Again, they want to and endorsing candidates who denounce pride flags and critical race theory. The group, which was launched in February, says it's a statewide, nonpartisan, parent-focused organization, and all in quotes, that vows to ensure every parent who wants to get involved in their child's education has every resource they need to do so successfully. According to the group's website, its goal is to educate and empower Minnesota parents to effectively engage in their school community as strong advocates for academic achievement, equality, and parental rights. The parents movement is alive and well in Minnesota. The Minnesota Parents Alliance tweeted ahead of its launch in February. We've got work to do in 22. So this was last year, but they're actually starting to, let's put it this way. They've already have pushed candidates for school boards, gotten people elected. They're going to be talking in front of the legislature. I know that Shu, who is going to be here today, was going to be a part of that. Now, but here's now again, this is the Los Angeles Blade, which is a national something LGBT news site. So this is and so they're very critical of this idea. However, the Minnesota Parents Alliance lists several conservative groups under its helpful organization tab, including the Child Protection League, which the Southern Poverty Law Center lists as an anti-LGBTQ hate group. Oh, because there are things that they don't want kids to be learning. And, to call them a hate group, though, I don't think so. The Child Protection League generated extensive media coverage early this year after the Becker School District signed off on a plan to allow the organizations to present the other side of the LGBTQ rights debate, quote unquote, other side. In August, according to NPR News, supporters of the group rallied in front of the Minnesota State Capitol, some carrying signs with crossed out images of pride flags and CRT referring to critical race theory. Now, and this is one of those articles that's going to tell you, oh, this isn't really a part of your school. This is a graduate level academic framework centering on the idea of systemic racism in the nation's institutions. Critical race theory has become a buzzword in conservative circles, encompassing any teaching of race and American history in schools. That's false. That's a straw man. That's not what the idea that it's not taught, implemented in certain ways. If you start using social emotional learning, it's implemented, whether it's taught as a theory or used as a guideline for the practice of teaching in schools. And the idea that if you have teachers telling you that, yes, we are using critical race theory in schools, even though they say they're not teaching it, then it's still being implemented in a way that the academics who teach it at the graduate level are intending it to be taught. Okay. If they aren't actually teaching it, then a ban should worry anyone. Very good point. My dumb movies. So anyway, so this is clearly the way they put in the scare quotes, not whatnot, clearly not in favor of this parents group. But now we'll take a look at a Fox News version, and then we'll take a look at a local version of what they're saying. Minnesota-based parental rights group launched its effort to support train school board candidates. The new rights group in Minnesota, called the Minnesota Parents Alliance, held a Reclaim Our Schools rally at the Minnesota Capitol Thursday, launching on an effort to train and support school board candidates and get parents involved in their schools and communities. Founder and executive director of the Minnesota Parents Alliance, Christine Troyan, who spoke at the rally, said there are more than 100 parents across the state who align with our mission. Now, I bet there are more than 100 parents total if people knew about it. But anyway, aligned with our mission and filing to run. Oh, these are the 100 that were filing to run for local school boards. A lot of these parents got elected. That's the thing. A lot of these parents got elected to school boards. They were pretty successful. Among those parents is Mike Burrell, a parent, former law enforcement officer, who's running for the Forest Lake Area School Board and said he'll rally at the rally. He's fed up with what he sees happening in the schools. Now, the candidate who spoke was John Anderson, who's running in Elk River, and said the indoctrination he saw in corporate America is creeping into the school system. That's it. The DEI is turning into SEL in the schools. Let's see. Parents all over the country have been speaking out against coronavirus-related mandates. This was back when they had the mandates in schools and progressive curriculums that have been associated with critical race theory or gender theory. The Biden administration specifically drew the ire of parents when the National School Board Association sent a letter to the Justice Department that requested parents' actions at school board meetings be examined under the Patriot Act as domestic terrorists. Your parents are domestic terrorists. The parents are saying, fuck you. We're still going to run for these boards. We're going to take over the boards. And they've been successful in so many places. That's got to be a good thing, right? Right? Okay. And then this is the Minnesota Public Radio version. But I think this one uses all the scare quotes too. Oh, this is almost... Well, let's take a look at this one real quick because this is interesting. Oh, this is from August. So they actually use the same quote from John Anderson. So anyway, a new group called itself the Minnesota Parents Alliance rallied at the state capitol Thursday. Dozens of supporters showed up for the gathering. Some carried signs with images of LGBTQ flags crossed out or CRT crossed out, as well as school board candidates' signs. John Anderson, who's running for a seat in the Elk River School Board, was one of the many who spoke at the rally. You see indoctrination creeping into the school system? I said, wait. I retired from my position and I decided, let's run for the school board. Other group members were from Osseo, Lakeville, Forest Lake, Owatonna, Stillwater, and other districts. They focused their speeches on a number of conservative issues and raised concerns regarding critical race theory, sex education, and gender expression. Christine Toyan, a mother of 3, launched a group. She started homeschooling her preschoolers during the pandemic, but when she saw her district implement programs focused on equity, whenever you see the word equity, what do you do, class? Run. She said it made her want to keep her kids home until things change. So, and when I say equity, I don't, not saying that equity and equality or equality of opportunity are not the same thing. Equity means everyone gets the same things. Like when those schools in Virginia, for example, all these students who took the PSAT and they get their scores back, and the National Merit Scholarship Program sends out, commended students and recommendations and National Merit Scholars, whatever. And when the administrations of those schools decide that they're not going to inform the students who got those awards that they got them prior to college admissions times, because it's not fair to the other students that you get this award and the other students didn't. So you're chopping them off at the knees. That's equity. That's equity. Making it so everyone has the same outcome. Okay. There's a problem with the concept of equity. The problem is not everyone is the same. Not everyone has the same skill sets. Not everyone has the same brains. Not everyone has the same physical assets. Not everyone has the same drive. Not everyone has the same ambition. Not everyone has the same gumption. So, if someone works 50 hours a week, 11-hour days, making themselves better at something and gets better and better and better and becomes more productive and does more work and does gains more production, whatever it is, whether it's brain things, physical things, or whatever, and someone else does 30 hours worth of that, maybe not at the high production, at the same high production, not at the same skill level, not at the same level of excellence, but you give them both the same dollar amount at the end of the week. Well, that's equity. Is Streamlabs broken? No, I just don't have the notification. Let me check real quick. I have to refresh this. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ty Alexander, by the way. Thank you. Please let me know if you throw Streamlabs, because I don't have it. I don't have the notifications popping up. First, thank you, Ty Alexander, for sponsoring the show. You are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Tyre says 1984 and Animal Farm were a warning. They were written to be a canary in the coal mine. They are not a how-to guide. I say this now and I mean it. I would rather destroy my homeland and my own hand than let it fall to these cunts and their OWG bullshit. I thank you very much. Also, thank you, Thomas Cleaver Kapow, for sponsoring the show. And Thomas Cleaver, you are now the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. You can play this one on the show without worrying about claims, guaranteed. Oh, is this one of your songs, Thomas Cleaver? I'm going to save it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it today, but I appreciate it, and I want to check it out, and then we'll put it on the stream tomorrow. Or no, it has to be on Thursday. Thursday when I have my regular setup, because I don't have a regular setup today. By the way, welcome, Thomas Cleaver. Nice to see you. Peter Knight, I think you'll like that track. Check it out on stream. You won't regret it. I will check it out. I had Asian Research Director. I identify as AOC. I'm sorry. Correct. Don't forget Brave New World. Yeah, that one too. That's definitely one. No, I'm definitely we'll do it on Thursday for sure. And you got to come back. All right. I'm not really set up to do that today. Okay, the road to Wigan Pier, a little canary in the coal mine. So anyway, equity is not equity is just it's a socialist Marxist pipe dream that everyone just is able to get the same thing. You know what I mean? So anyway, Anderson, let's see, what else they got here? Is there anything else new that I haven't read about this? Oh, yeah, this is interesting. So Chrissy Truitt, a mother of three, launched the group. She started homeschooling preschoolers. Our district, she says, our district passed what was called a cultural competency plan. And I read through that and I thought, you know what? These are not messages I want my young kids seeing. Truitt says her group is nonpartisan, has partnered with several conservative organizations in launching a group. Among them, this is where, I'm pretty sure this is where the Los Angeles, whatever place I read earlier, got this from. So she said her group is nonpartisan, has partnered with several conservative organizations launching her group, among them the Center for the American Experiment and the Child Protection League, which advocates for removing comprehensive sex education from the schools, as well as opposing policies and programs designed to make schools safe for LGBTQ students. Look, when they say safe, what does that mean? Like physically safe? I'm not sure. Anyway, but she says that, but I cannot tell you the number of parents that have contacted our organization and want to partner with us that identify as a Democratic voter. So they have people who identify as Democrats. They say, I'm a left-leaning voter. I've always voted for Democrat candidates. And what is going on in my schools right now is just unacceptable. Again, I think some of these politicians, like our governor, who tries to copy everything that happens in California in Illinois and New York, because he's that kind of guy. I think it's going to backfire, especially in some states like here, where you mess with people's kids, and they're going to let you know pretty quickly that that's not cool. I'm just saying. As Minnesota schools in recent years have moved to address longstanding systemic racial disparities in classrooms, well, they're sure failing at it, because the so-called racial achievement gap in Minnesota is among the worst in the country. And look, is it because you're coddling kids too much? Is it because you're just passing kids through the system? Because I know that I have a friend whose daughter they've just been passing her through the system, and she doesn't have really any, and their parents are mad about it. They're trying to help their daughter. She hasn't learned anything in school. And that's really discouraging. And now at the point she's, where she's going to be a senior in high school, and she just she has to do a lot of remedial stuff that she should have already known. Now, is that on the parents a little bit? Sure it is. Parents need to be aware, but okay. So anyway, this is a Minnesota Public Radio article. So of course this is going to be here. As Minnesota schools in recent years have moved to address longstanding systemic racial disparities in the classroom, some have run up against concern or outrage from parents. Outrage, or just people want shit to work right. Many of them, oh no, wait a minute. Here's the kicker line. Again, this is an NPR, Minnesota Public Radio article. Many of them are white.
You're fucking a white male!
In Minnesota? How can that be? It's a 96% white state. Anyway, other parents have brought their frustrations about stupid 19 masking policies to the board. So this is from last summer. Last year's board election saw a higher than usual number of special elections, many fueled by board members quitting in droves. Good. That's not a bad thing. They're starting to see that maybe their parents want what parents want in the schools. Basically learning shit and not being indoctrinated. In some cases, as a result of contentious interaction with parents and community members over masking policies and critical race theories. I think we saw last year a lot of inflammatory things happening at school board meetings, and that's not getting us anywhere. Truman said, dedicated school board members, that's going to get us somewhere. Well, yeah, okay. The Minnesota School Boards Association and districts boards have always welcomed parent input in public schools, have dozens of formal opportunities for parent communication, and that 99% of people currently serving on boards are parents. Our board and school districts do a lot to encourage and strengthen parental partnership today. I'm not sure if it's all seen or completely understood, said Minnesota School Boards Association Executive Director Kirk Schneiderwind. I think that's what it says. We welcome discussion on how we can enhance that, but by the same token, we feel like parental opportunities for input exist for our districts. And then they have a correction from earlier in there. Anyway, an earlier version of this story misidentified the Minnesota Parents Alliance. You misidentified it? Is that a microaggression? Anyway, so now here in my own state, some parents are fighting back. So I only have a couple other things. I feel really bad. I'll have to call Shu and see what happened. I don't know if we got something mixed up last night, but I'll have a chat with her today and see. Hope everything's okay with her. Now I'm going to finish up with this, because this is interesting. I talked about a story a few weeks ago if you remember Kirk Cameron from I don't know what show he's on there with Missy Gold and Alan Thicke. What was that show called? Some family show, right? And what's interesting about that show is the kids who were in that show turned out to be all that turned out to be ended up being evangelical Christians, so to speak. Is it Missy Gold? I think, and then and Kirk Cameron, or just they're fairly conservative, right? Well, Kirk Cameron was offering to go to libraries because he's written a children's book about it, and it has Christian themes in it, right? He's written some children's books, and so he offered to go to some libraries, right, around the state of California where they had been hosting the drag queen story hours and saying, hey, you're having people come in and read these books, yada, yada. Well, I would love to offer to come in and read my book too, with the Christian theme books and stuff. And many, 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 many of these outlets told him, no, we don't have room for you to come and read your children's books with Christian themes. And so what happened? Growing Pains. Yes, thank you, Advocate Stabley. Growing Pains was a show. I'm not sure Kirk Cameron is all that much better than a drag queen. Well, whether it is or not, they have the drag. They've like, oh yeah, the drag queen story. Bring it on. Yeah, let's have the drag queens coming to read for the kids. But he wrote it's his children's book. He wrote the damn book, and I'm sure it can't be terrible. Okay. And could it be any worse than the drag queen story? But the libraries were turning him down, saying, no, we can't have that in our library. We can't have that. It is not the values that we embrace. Well, apparently he finally got a library to allow him to come read his children's book at the library for children's. And the libraries where they didn't feel that it was the right fit or whatever, they didn't have room for him. They didn't want him to they didn't send the right message, right? But they finally found a library that said, okay, we'll do it. What the hell? Well, 1,000 people showed up. 1,000 people packed California Library for faith-based story time with Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron took his faith-based children's book to a California public library where 1,000 parents and children waited in the rain to hear him read the story. Cameron's television and film career recently embraced the new role of children's book. Embraced the role of children's book author with the publishing of his book, As You Grow. Last week, the Growing Pains star announced he would be expanding his Storytime tour to libraries across the nation after receiving an overwhelming response at 2 libraries that were part of the 50 to reject his Storytime request originally, despite their previously promoted drag queen story hour event. So he got rejected by 50 different libraries, rejected him, but finally 2 caved, and he had over 1,000 people at one of the libraries. On Saturday, the Growing Pains star hosted a story time at the Placentia Library, located around 35 miles south of Los Angeles. His publisher, Brave Books, told the Washington Examiner that around 1,000 people packed the library for the event. So all of the forces of darkness are no match for moms and dads who are committed to God and to the family and to teaching their children, Cameron told those in the audience. He told the Washington Examiner that despite the library's choosing not to sponsor, announce, or promote his story times, he is renting the reading rooms and people are finding out anyway. So they're not even promoting it. They're promoting the other ones. So anyway, with attendance being overwhelming. So, let's see. His book follows the journey of a tree's growth and details the value of biblical wisdom through the seasons of life. So anyway, and I I think that's rather poetic that that many people showed up for this. So because they were telling him, nope, there's no room at the inn, so to speak. And so his book made it. And now he's going to expand it to around the country. Good for him. And you know what? I think it's okay. I think it's fine. So that's it. All right, guys. Like I said, I will try to get a hold of Shu and find out what happened. Hope it might have been a technical issue, but no, because she's not answering phone. I just hope everything's okay. I know that her one of her kids was very sick, and so hopefully that things are okay there. We'll reschedule that. But tomorrow on the show, we will have Tiffany Justice with Moms for Liberty, another group that is out doing the parental rights fight. You know what I'm saying? So we'll try to, and we'll make sure that she makes it. She will be here. So same bad time, same bad channel. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button before you go. Share the stream. I'm going to probably have to change the thumbnail and the title of it, but to share the stream, the link will be the same. And then also, if you'd like to sponsor the show, like a couple people have done, pdognight.live. Thank you, Thomas Cleaver and Tyra Alexander, for sponsoring the show today. And if you're watching a replay, put a comment in the comment section. What do you think about the parental rights movement? You have any thoughts on that? Are parents doing the right thing by fighting with these school boards? I personally think they are, but what do you think they can do better? What do you think they can do to make that fight more reasonable, more palatable, whatever? So anyway, I gotta go. Thanks, everybody. I will be back tomorrow here at 10 o'clock a.m. with Tiffany Justice, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. And that's it. I gotta go. Thank you. My name is Pete Dog Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is P Dog Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.